for those people who aren't familiar with who you are. I want people to know who you are, and I want you to be widely recognized as the most important historian in the United States, because I think that you are.
So that is Tucker Carlson, and he is talking to a person that he believes is, or the most important historian in the United States, and that it is wrong that we do not all recognize this person who we will describe as the most important historian in the United States. So who is this person? Why is it that Tucker Carlson would be a big fan of them? I know you're probably already filling in the blanks in a variety of different monstrous ways. Well, one of them at least is true. It's a guy that apologized for the Nazis and basically has done a bunch of Holocaust denial. That's who he is. How bad is he? And how bad is this interview? Here's how bad it is. Elon Musk had tweeted, "Very interesting, worth watching." And when the pushback came for the things this guy says, Elon Musk deleted the tweet. Let's pause there for a second. Elon Musk felt that keeping that tweet up would be irresponsible. I didn't think he was physically capable at this point of actually thinking this might actually reflect poorly on me. I should take this down, but he did. He took down that tweet. So who's this guy? Well, we want to give you a little bit of clips from it. We're also going to talk a little bit about what this guy has argued. Here's a bit from that interview.
I thought Churchill was the chief villain of the Second World War. Now, he didn't kill the most people. He didn't commit the most atrocities. But I believe, and I think when you really get into it and tell the story right and don't leave anything out, you see that he was primarily responsible for that war becoming what it did, becoming something other than an invasion of Poland. Germany, look, they put themselves into a position, and Adolf Hitler is chiefly responsible for this, but his whole regime is responsible for it, that when they went into the East in 1941, they launched a war where they were completely unprepared to deal with the millions and millions of prisoners of war, of local political prisoners and so forth that they were going to have to handle. They went in with no plan for that. And they just threw these people into camps, and millions of people ended up dead there.
Look, we could go on, historians could go on for a long time about how utterly reprehensible, but not unique, the spin that you just heard in that was, saying that in World War II, we have to identify a chief villain. Who could it be? Who could it be? Churchill? Let's say him, because I don't want to say the other guy. By the way, if you want to talk about villains in World War II, there's plenty of villains to go around. And Churchill, by the way, is no saint. Take a look at what happened in India. There's all sorts of reasons to throw accusations of villainy around. But the idea that you are appearing on this program, the point of your work is to say, hey, everyone, hands off Hitler, there's worse people. That would be bad enough. He then goes on to say, okay, so obviously Germany did some things they shouldn't have done. They went east, and then there were prisoners, and they just weren't prepared for all the prisoners, so they put them in camps. Yeah, that's the ticket. That's how people got in camps. It's just bureaucracy, and they just weren't ready. And so, yeah, I guess some bad things happened. You getting the vibe of what's happening here?
A storm is tearing up the digital media industry. Only our audience can save us in these difficult times. Help us reach our goal of 100,000 new members at tyt.com/team.
We're gonna give you just a little bit more. Here's some more from the interview.
And millions of people ended up dead there. You have letters as early as July, August 1941 from commandants of these makeshift camps that they're setting up for these millions of people who are surrendering or people they're rounding up. And so it's 2 months after, a month or two after Barbarossa was launched. And they're writing back to the high command in Berlin saying, we can't feed these people. We don't have the food to feed these people. And one of them actually says, rather than wait for them all to slowly starve this winter, wouldn't it be more humane to just finish them off quickly now?
Most important historian in the world. That is what Tucker Carlson said. They got some prisoners and they're like, oh, we want to be humane, so we'll kill all these people. And so, hey, we randomly have these gas chambers and ovens. So let's do the humane thing and kill. I mean, we're not trying to kill any of these people. Forget all of the things that Hitler and the other leaders of the Third Reich said. Forget all of the ideological underpinning of Nazism. Please forget all of that. They were just trying to be humane, and so they had prisoners, and millions of people died. They weren't killed, they weren't massacred, they weren't wiped out, ethnically cleansed. They just died passively died. Nobody killed them. It's okay. I want to be very clear about this. The issue with this interview and what Tucker Carlson said isn't that he had this guy on, and when you dig into this guy's past, you find out he said these things. That would be bad enough. He said these things in the interview with Tucker Carlson, and Tucker Carlson loves it. He loves the rewriting of history to absolve Adolf Hitler and the Nazis of the worst war crimes, the worst atrocities our world has ever seen. That's what the point of this was. You know, we've had a national conversation for better part of a year now about anti-Semitism and what makes a person an anti-Semite. And it's definitely the Democrats. It's definitely the left, okay? Because they don't want Palestinians to die, so I guess they're anti-Semitic. No, not Tucker Carlson though. Not the right, as they're trying to whitewash Adolf Hitler of the crimes he committed. By the way, if we could bring up this last graphic, it breaks down all the various ways that Jewish people specifically were murdered in so many barbarous ways. Any one of those categories, just by itself, would be one of the worst things ever done in the history of our species, and he did them all. And obviously, Jewish people were not the only people that were specifically targeted for annihilation by Adolf Hitler. Obviously, the LGBTQ community was targeted. No way in hell a single right winger is gonna care about that. They think that that was awesome, no notes whatsoever. And obviously, a lot of Romani people were killed, and a lot of other people were specifically rounded up, targeted, and killed in an industrial fashion. And the interview goes on for 2 hours. So if you want, you can go watch that. But that's what the right is doing this week. And I want to be very clear. Tucker Carlson, ever since he turned down this more explicitly conspiratorial anti-Semitic turn, do you know that he has, under some metrics, the most popular podcast in the world? So more people than are watching and listening to any other podcast are hearing, hey, by the way, Hitler not too bad. He's gotten kind of a bum rap from history, and Jewish people weren't intentionally killed in the Holocaust. It was just like, paperwork, logistics, That is going out to millions of people. Are the right gonna condemn that? Donald Trump, JD Vance, are they gonna? No, the dude who's advising Donald Trump, the guy who might be the Republican nominee for president in 4 years. That's what he's doing this week. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.